welcome to Yankees League the One YouTube channel. If this is your first time on my YouTube channel, please subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the red subscribe button down below and turn on the bell icon. Tell me what you think about this video in the comment section.
Is our production went down to 1.5, so which means even that which is retained was not there. We had to come up with mechanisms to feed our people, and that is why food was imported from Tanzania. There was 500,000 tons that was brought in, and that is why we embarked on irrigated maize. You saw the president commission things, winter maize, to ensure that nobody, in spite of the severe drought, nobody in this country died out of hunger.
Right. Okay. I know that there's a lot more we can talk about that, but we'll try and see whether we can come back to some of these issues. I want us to move on now to the highly contested matter of constitutional amendments, Honorable Minister. And while the government contends that the proposed changes are non-contentious, we've heard certain quarters persistent in opposition to this. Why do you think there's so much mistrust about government's intention in this matter?
If the opposition is motivated by the opposition political players, whether they're in alliance or not, do you expect that this government would do anything and you would get praise from these opposition political players? Nothing. That's not how they operate. The way they operate is whatever they see as negative, they spin it. You know, we have spinners now, those who spew out propaganda and so on, and to showcase that the government is doing the opposite way. Their main aim is not to help the country go forward. It is to ensure that come an election, they can also win. So therefore, what you see is propaganda. Now, the issue of non-contentious issues within the Constitution, that should not really be matter for debate. Because it's very well known what issues are not non-contentious.
But the argument is who prescribed or who decided that these were non-contentious and these are. But let's talk about the non-contentious ones, because that's where the contestation also seems to be.
Well, let me tell you who decides. It's the people themselves. And how have they decided? We have had many constitutional review commissions in this country. You know that, frankly. There are a number of issues which every constitutional review commission has brought out these issues. Whether it is from the Chona Commission, this is the one that ushered in the one-party state. Whether it was the Vunga Commission, you know, that's what changed now to bring in multipartyism. Whether it was the Mwanakatwe Commission, this is the one that did attempt to solidify a multi-party democracy. Whether it is the Zalomis technical committee that went around looking at these issues, whether indeed it was the technical committee that was formed by President Sata, may he so rest in peace, in 2012, that was headed by Chief Justice Anos Lungwe. The same things keep coming up and up. The issue of delimitation, wanting more members of parliament, recognizing that certain constituencies, certain wards are so huge, it has always been there. So, is there anyone who is arguing today that there is no need to look at the sizes of some of these constituencies or some of these wards?
Well, there's none. In fact, there is. In fact, if you hear the arguments, there are some who are saying there is no need. The arguments are all out there. They don't think that this delimitation exercise has got merit. But in added to that, are we saying that because these were described under non-contentious lists, then there is no need to go back to people and see whether those are still being seen as non-contentious?
Let me tell you, I've told you that last Sunday I was in a rural part of what was then Pikas, now Kanchibia. I was in an area where we're commissioning a bridge across the river Ruitikila. Okay. And the people came from all over. And during the speeches, one of the persons that spoke was a councillor of that particular ward. Together with the councillor and the chief corpus representative, they said, we want this to be broken up. That councillor that you are seeing, the councillor that who spoke, he represents an area from here to the far corner of 250 kilometers. One councillor, one ward. Whether you can get proper representation in the area that size, at ward level, not even at constituency level, I think is clear. And they said, here in Kanchivia, we want it broken up in 2 or 3. It wasn't us, it was the people that were saying.
But with the pressure the country has,
yeah,
where will the money to pay an increased number of MPs come from? At the same time, you're navigating challenges economically,
yeah,
and the argument is, why would you want to have more MPs?
You see, frankly, as an interviewer, I know you're trying to get information from me, but at the same time, there's an element of relaying what you have heard from the other side, which is perfectly what an interviewer should be. Here you are saying that there is no need because we have other challenges. That's a separate argument, and we can look at that. What it is what we want is proper representation. Every person in this country, far-flung or not, they must feel they're being represented. That's point number one. If people can't be reached by the members of parliament, they can't be reached by their councillors because the area is too vast, that is not good. The second reason is if you look at some resources disbursements, they are based on constituencies. And if the division of constituencies in the country, there are some that is too large, there are some with very huge populations. When you allocate these resources equally among all constituencies, not taking into account the size of a constituency, not taking into account the people in that constituency, the principle of equity is defeated. Because you have constituencies where there are 4 wards and they're getting 36 million kwacha. You have others with 18 wards, they're getting 36 million kwacha. So the question of equity gets defeated there. The allocation of resources are made to go equally or equitably to every corner of the country. And you have noticed that with the increase in the Constituency Development Fund, councils are relying more and more on the application of those funds in terms of what they do. Those funds are used to bring development, to build schools, to build clinics, to empower people in those constituencies, to sponsor people in those constituencies. So they have a direct impact on the livelihood of the people. And if it's not done equitably, it means some people will not get as much as others.
Right, which makes a lot of sense. I suppose part of the problem people have is the fact that this doesn't happen overnight. I mean, these are huge undertakings, so to speak. You are an engineering expert. You know better than I do. But there seems to be this element of haste, which is also a matter of contention. Why the haste?
There is no haste. Look at our manifesto, UPND manifesto. We said we are going to do this. That's one. Delimitation is one. You tell me if anybody disagrees with the other one that says, look, in terms of representation, whether it is in councils or in parliament, our women, our youth, our people with disabilities are not adequately represented. Is there anyone in Zambia who would argue with that argument? Look at our parliament now, where our SADC protocol says that we should have 30% representation by women. What's the percentage we have in this parliament? 13%, 1-3. Okay. Now, when we are saying this must be addressed, one of the ways to address this is to look at that particular clause and see what we can do to ensure that we have guaranteed seats where women can come in. Or, other than that, there are other ways to have a hybrid system that includes first past post as well as proportional representation, where party tickets would have a number of women maybe higher up so that they come into parliament.
Right, clearly.
I think so.
What part does the UPND play in the what? Confusion of the PF.
You want me to answer well,
you're here to...
the UPND
right.
or government have played no part in the confusion of... it's like a man and a wife who can't get on, and they are divorcing, they are separating. And they are saying, what part has my neighbor played in my dissolution of my marriage? It's your responsibility to look after your marriage. It's the responsibility of PF. Don't forget, UPND was in opposition for 23 years. Okay? If at all other parties can play a role of bringing confusion in our party, is he suggesting that PF were playing that role in UPND? And why did they not succeed? Okay. To me, if you ask me what has caused these issues in PF, it's a dishonesty.
Right. Another caller.
Always, you lose an election, you go and regroup. You come up with a new leadership.
Right.
Especially when you're in government.
Right. So it's basically an agreement with you.
Absolutely.
That,
and there's one other thing.
Right.
If you look at these urban constituencies, any one of them, how many secondary schools are in that constituency? How many primary schools are in that constituency? How many clinics? Sometimes how many level 1, level 2 hospitals are in that clinic? How many roads are already in there? And then you look at one like Kaputa or Shangong. How many secondary schools are? Some there is no secondary school. Some there is no hospital.
Right.
And so on.
Right.
And these are the ones that require more development.
Right.
But if it's being given same as the ones he's talking about.
Right. Before we move away from the subject, many are saying this endeavor, changing the constitution, or rather making amendments, is not too different from Bill 10. In fact, in some quarters, they're even calling this proposal as Bill 11. It's all over. Do you think, how different is what government is trying to do, or what is trying to be done from what collapsed?
First of all, let me tell you what was happening before NDF, National Dialogue Forum, which was concocted by PF in government then. There was a huge movement to bring in what we called National Dialogue and Reconciliation. We in the opposition and other political parties, including the PF in the start, was that we need to sit down as political parties under the leadership of the church mother bodies. And therefore we had the CCCB, which is the Catholic bishops, under the chairmanship of Bishop George Lungu. Precisely, and that's why all the 13 of them, we could, if we had time, would go through them one by one.
Absolutely.
There is nothing that puts UPND or the UPND allies at an advantage compared to everybody else.
Right.
It is in the interest of the whole country.
Right. I want us to move on to matters of infrastructure, sir, because that's your expertise, and it's a matter that puts you there, among others, of course. The issue of unpaid invoices for supervision works. There's some engineering consultants who are, from the Association for Consulting Engineers in Zambia, and they've lamented, they've complained that they're owed over 500 million kwacha in unpaid, works. Is there any reason why the government has not been keen on settling these bills? I don't know what the situation is now.
Yeah, let me just tell you. That is why you look at President Hakainde today. The amount of putting things right that he has had to deal with, him and his government, is colossal. We've talked about the debt. Now, let us look at infrastructure. What the PF were doing is that even at RDA, there were cadres who were there just to give contracts and so on. And in most cases, these projects were not awarded with a budget in place, with resources in place. They were just given all over the place. To such an extent that when we came into office, we had 1,005 contracts given out in infrastructure development. The date you're talking about for the consulting engineers and so on, supervising engineers, was part of that date. The total date was 12 billion kwacha. Okay. That particular year, they had awarded contracts of 121 billion kwacha. When you look at the annual budget for that particular year, it was even slightly under that. That's the level of responsibility that was going on. So we take over. We are heavily indebted. We can't borrow to put on the projects. Our budget is small, tiny. Our budget, whether it is 170 million, billion, and so on, translate it in dollar terms, it's usually around $6 billion.
Doesn't seem a lot of hope for this.
What I'm saying is this is what we are grappling with. It is what is called legacy debt. It's not debt that we have accumulated.
So they'll have to hold on a little bit longer.
Let me explain. It's debt that was left by the PF. Okay? And where was this money applied? Were these projects completed? In a number of cases, these were left hanging. In some cases, project was given, money paid, but nothing was done.
So what are you going to do?
Where it was done very poorly. I can give an example of Nakonde to Mbala, which was commissioned in 2017. You go there, check at how badly it's failing. Look at Isoka Muyombe. Go there. With just your shoe, you can rub off the tarmac on that particular road. These are the things we're grappling with.
So what are you going to do now? Because they're still working, and there's certain
Number one,
works
we are looking at
whose quality could be compromised.
No. We are working under government directions expounded by our president, supported by myself as a minister of infrastructure. Any project done must satisfy 3 criteria. Number 1, it must be the right cost. Number 2, it must be right quality, international standard quality. And it must be delivered on agreed time frame. Just 3.
But how will it happen if they're owed so much money?
No. Because the projects that we are doing now, whether they're being done under PPP or being done under our limited resources, they all comply to those. I'll give you an example. Go to Chingola Chirabombwe Road, Chingola Kasumbalesa Road via Chirabombwe. Check the quality that was done. Go to Chinsali, Isoka, Nakonde Road. Check the quality of work that's being done. You go on Lusaka and Dola Joe Carriageway. Check the quality of work that's being done. That did not happen by accident. It is government of President Hakainde. It is the ministry under my leadership saying this is what it's going to be. We are not going to tolerate anything like that. Right cost, the 1 kilometer just to do tar or bituminous road tar for 1 kilometer, in the last regime of PF, it was costing 1.2 million. Above $1 million, 1.2. We have said right cost. And we know how to derive the right cost.
So what are you going to do with these?
So we have reduced now the cost of doing that to a half, sometimes less than a half.
So what's going to happen to these people?
Legacy debt has to wait until we have the resources. And that is why we are restructuring the economy. The economy is going to grow, and that will allow us to pay those that did genuine work.
So they have to be patient.
Everyone has got. If you have no money to pay,
so
and we
so there's no money to pay.
Listen, we have resolved. We spent almost 3 years dealing with the issue of debt left by the PF. During the time we were doing that, we could not go and borrow. And if you don't have your own money, how do you pay somebody else? So this building up the economy. And by the way, I've said that in 2021 we inherited an economy under recession. But because of the various investments that have come in, the economy, after 2 years, That GDP, which we took over at $18-20 billion, was $31 billion. That's a statement of fact. The figures I gave earlier on that the GDP to debt ratio went as high in 2021 as 118%. You check now, it has come down to 75%. This shows the success of what we are doing.
Right,
but if you ask me,
so what do you give them? Because obviously they have to wait, and you're the minister in charge.
Yeah.
There's got to be something that gives them hope. There's got to be some middle ground.
you see, this is where we have problems. You know, people say something like that, they do not give you solutions. Let me tell you, what are the solutions to that? You don't have money, you need to pay the people. First of all, most of them, what was done, there were many people who want to be paid for the air that they delivered. Okay, Lusaka Ndola Joe Carriageway. When we came in, somebody had been paid $30 million advance payment for work on that road. Okay, we said, look, no work has been done. So we are now trying to recover some of that money. FTJ University in Mansa, $30 million was paid. Tumpa University in Kasama, similar amount was paid. Nothing was done. Okay, that is how irresponsible those who are running the affairs of the country. And what I'm saying is, if you do not have money, there are two ways in which you can pay. You can go and borrow. We couldn't borrow because we are over-borrowed. Or you can go back to the citizens, including Franklin, and say we are going to tax you more so that we can have more money in the treasury to be able to pay these things.
Honorable Minister,
our analysis of taxes in this country is already high. And therefore, our citizens cannot take on more tax. So understand, this is not debt that we have generated ourselves, it's debt that we found. Right.
As we close, because unfortunately time has run out, you mentioned the Lusaka Ndola Dual Carriageway, which is a mega project. And this is when, if not how many, couple of weeks ago, you now have an independent engineer, a consulting engineer. Is that what you call them? One who overlooks whatever work is happening. You have one, am I right?
Yes.
Why did it take so long?
What point are you making here, frankly? Because I hear people say these things. Let me just tell you.
Right.
Okay. An engineer works for who? Works for the contracting authority. I will answer that question for you. And who is the contracting authority? It is RDA. You go to RDA, it's full of engineers, starting from the chief executive to directors, and so they all call themselves engineer so-and-so, engineer so-and-so. So where there is delay in appointing an outside consultant, does not mean the work suffers. That's why you go on the Lusaka Ndola Road, you find that there is no quality compromise because we have other ways of supervising.
Do you need more? Is the one?
Well, that's what is stipulated in the contract. That's what is stipulated in the contract. We have a project now ongoing, Chipata Chadiza. And by the way, many people thought we were not going to do it. Go there and see what we are doing there. And we think that on Chipata Chadiza, by the end of this year, we'll be able to commission. There will be people moving from Chipata all the way to Chadiza on a tar road.
Right.
Something that was not done from 1964.
Rob, in a minute, sir, as we close, why do you think that the alliance with you leading as chairman, all these works and challenges will eventually make the Zambians see what you can see in terms of vision at the end of the day?
Yeah, because people feel, okay, all the things that we have said, there's a growing economy. The mining sector was collapsed, frankly. Mopani was under care and maintenance. KCM was under liquidation. Okay, those big mining companies in Northwestern, like First Quantum, like Lumwana, they had made up their mind to leave this country because of the changing policies of the then government. Okay, we came in. What has happened? We resolved the Mopani issue by bringing in a new investor who has brought in money, regardless of whatever you hear. We resolved the issue of KSM. The issue of KSM is not whether it's Vedanta back or not. It's a question of understanding that the way they liquidated, and you have seen the statements from Amos Chanda in the yesterday's paper, today's paper. that they did not agree even with the liquidation. The way they liquidated, Vedanta went into court in London. We would have spent the next 5-10 years attending that court and would have lost it. Okay, so we resolved it. They are back with benchmarks. You achieve this, production this, you put in so much. That's what we have done. Look at those mines, First Quantum, Lumwana. Instead of leaving, they have put in, one is 1.3 billion, the other one is 2 billion, they're putting in. New mines are coming up. You know, this cobalt, just outside Konkola, where Chirabombwe. That is why we have said, within such time frame, we want our copper production to move from 800,000 tons to 3 million. In 2011, 2012, the copper production of this country, Zambia, was 800,000 tons. DRC, Congo, was 400,000, half of us. 10 years on, up to 2021, the production of Zambia was 800, still remained at 800,000 tons. Congo had gone up to 2.2 million tons. All the investments were flying us over and going into DRC Congo.
But now
we have come. We have to go. Investment are coming. We are going to grow this economy. Employment to be generated. Business opportunities. This is what Hakainde is doing for this economy.
Sir,
thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Oh my goodness.